Okay, awesome. I could see a lot of guitars. Do you play guitar or somebody else in the house play guitar?
Oh, this is me, and this is not a fake Zoom wallpaper. You see, it's moving.
Oh, wow.
This
Damn
is
right.
maybe if we have time, we can play a little bit together
Yeah,
afterwards.
absolutely. Hello and welcome to Voices of Enablement by GTM, an interview series focusing on the key issues affecting the enablement community today. It's a tough market right now. Organizations are cutting staff, pausing investment into their go-to-marketing department. How do you make a compelling case for the value of enablement in this unpredictable economy is the core question that we are seeking to answer. So our guest today is Avner Baruch. Avner has more than 25 years of experience in sales and coaching. And Avner has built the sales enablement functions from the grounds up for companies like WalkMe, which is a pioneer in digital adoption space. Also, he has worked with a lot of leaders in transforming the business, like Transmit Security. He helped them convert from a normal business to the SaaS model. Welcome, Abner. I'm personally very excited to have this conversation. Pleasure having you on the show. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to be here and always happy to talk about sales enablement and revenue intelligence. This is my passion, and again, I thank you very much for the invitation to be speaking here on stage. Maybe, as you said, I'll start with a very quick introduction about myself. So, I started sales enablement, or I stepped into the sales space many years ago as a training manager. And I'm saying this because there are many training managers that are looking for, an opportunity to step up and look and step into new worlds of or upskill their careers. So I started as a training manager. Actually, I'm an electrical engineer. Focused my career on training. And many years ago, I decided to step into the sales space, and I'm probably one of the first to embark on this journey in Israel, leading or practicing sales enablement. And as you said, I established sales enablement for leading SaaS companies, Sisense, Tufin, WalkMe, Transmit Security, Rapyd today, and at the same time consulting to entrepreneurs and growing businesses. What does it take to establish a sales enablement and lead sales enablement productively? So again, thank you very much for putting me on stage and be able to share my experience with everyone.
Pleasure is ours, Amner. Like the kind of experience that you have, I'm sure the other enablement leaders are going to see a lot of value. So let's kickstart this. The very first question I have is, again, it's a tough market, right? I speak to a lot of sales enablement practitioners, and they all are seeking an answer to this question. How do you elevate the role of sales enablement with the C-suite when many support functions are being cut?
This is a great question to start with. I'll start with the basic fact that sales enablement has changed a lot over the last 15 years or 10 years, and especially over the last 5 years. I've seen the evolution taking place, and I can say definitely today that if you really want to practice sales enablement successfully, you need to think strategically. You need to be a strategic leader, not just someone who moderates content on HubSpot or HighSpot or whatever learning environment you're managing. You really need to think out of the box and think strategically. And most importantly, you need to think out of the sales perimeter, beyond the traditional sales scope of work, because we know that sales depend on whatever happens before, and other functions such as customer success or account managers, they depend on your success as well. So from a sales enablement point of view, we need to expand our responsibilities to whatever happens before: demand generation, lead generation, the handoff between marketing and sales engineers, and of course, customer success and account management.
Right. And like you said, because in today's market, it's not just sales enablement. The entire revenue team is responsible for generating the revenue. So why just focus on the salespeople, right? It's from the beginning of, from the very first touch point to the handover of the customers to our customer success team. So I think we need to enable every function that is talking to the customers.
Exactly. If I may emphasize this is a great point. When I started, designing, running boot camps for new hires, and then workshops for ongoing sessions, the Nord reps, etc. When I started, I focused on sales. I brought in salespeople, sales managers, account executives, and I basically designed an agenda that addresses all possible needs and scenarios. But as I was, standing on stage and talking about, what is missing, what are the key factors to success, etc., I realized the importance of bringing in other people as well in order to establish good collaboration, good communication, or in other words, a successful collaboration between marketing and sales engineers, customer success and account managers, or throughout the entire journey from lead to cash to expansion. It needs to start as early as possible. In other words, when you design a boot camp or a learning session, you need to put everyone in the same space. So that's another factor to success. Try to make everyone talk from day one, and establish good collaboration and good working environment from day one throughout the entire process.
And like you said, we have to be a strategic partner to our business. And Forrester is talking about it, that there's a lot of change happening. We were looking at enablement as a cost center, but now, in a time like this, I think market is very tough. Now more than ever, enablement could play a vital role in terms of elevating your sales rep performance. So how can the shift happen from a cost center to a force multiplier? And it can start by being a strategic partner and not limiting yourself to the tactical level. So can you talk to us like some of the goal setting initiatives the enablement folks can talk to their CROs or the leaders, what kind of metrics that they can talk about when they are talking about elevating their role?
Another good question. I'll begin by explaining that from a sales enablement leader point of view and from sales leaders point of view, we are all in the same situation, meaning, these are tough times. And we can't afford, lack of productivity. And we need to focus on time management across the board. Reps, managers, everyone needs to, invest time and efforts in order to improve their productivity, and mainly time management. So basically what it means is, from a leadership point of view, we cannot wait till the end of quarter to realize what works, what doesn't work. We cannot afford that. Small businesses, enterprise, whatever the scale of the business is, we cannot afford waiting till those reports, end of quarter reports, to realize that we missed big opportunities because of lack of competencies. Reps are not, executing on their go-to-market goals, or they have insufficient tools in order to execute on their KPIs. They're not familiar with the pitch, the talk tracks, or the competitive landscape. So bottom line, in order to work more effectively, sales enablement needs to be more proactive in terms of identifying what works, what doesn't work at any given moment. We cannot rely on those reports, those end of quarter, even end of month reports. We need to become very data driven. We need to become very productive, and we need to be able to provide a guiding help, or surgical. I really like to use the term surgical. That means I need to know who needs help, individuals or teams. I need to know when they need help and why they need help. And in order to do that, I really need to use in-app guidance instead of asking someone to spend time outside of the sales ecosystem. I need to provide them the help they need when they need it, at the time they need it. But before I actually provide help, I need to know exactly. I need to identify the gaps from qualification criteria, discovery processes, negotiation, whatever it takes across the entire sales cycle, from lead to cash to expansion, as I mentioned before. As a sales enablement leader, I need to be on top of everything, and be able to, I need the system to work for me and alert me whenever the need arises, and then offer help everyone need, and avoid a situation where it's too late. I'll focus on customer success because this is a great example. Customer success, account managers, most people in my position, sales enablement or even sales leader, they just park aside customer success because it's a different department. It's not part of sales. In my opinion, in my experience, that's a big mistake, and I can elaborate on this hours. But bottom line is, customer success account managers, they have big part in our ability, business ability, to generate revenue, not just to retain, but to scale up the business. Now, from sales enablement point of view, most people just focus on churn rate. Okay, how many customers are we losing? I think it's too late. This is a post-mortem approach. By the time you find out what is the churn rate, you lost X% of your customers. So from becoming more productive, we need to be able to design predictive models, indicators, so we can be on top of everything. We can identify patterns that happen across the sales cycle that may lead to a situation where the customer onboarding will fail. As a result, we actually are going to face a high churn rate. So that's another example how sales enablement can, step out of the traditional sales cycle and help other departments that rely on sales, and vice versa. By the way, most people in my position, sales enablement, they like to illustrate or to describe the sales cycle as lead to cash to renewal. I like to use the other way around. I like to describe the sales process as expansion, marketing, and sales. So first, we need to be able to expand. We need to derive conclusions and insights from whatever happens across our book of business, provide those insights back to marketing so they can calibrate, fine-tune the ICP, ideal customer profile, and this help salespeople to sanitize their pipeline and become more focused on what works.
Mm-hmm. Love it, Avner. The two things that you spoke about, one is how can sales enablement be more proactive? And because it's a lot of things are happening and the fast, like if we're relying on the net run rate, we have already lost that customer. Second thing that you spoke about was that every sales guy is different. They might need different kind of help. There are a lot of competencies. Some might need help in the discovery. Some might need help in negotiation. How to identify that, okay, which salesperson need what kind of help, and then create a program based on that. So I have one question. You mentioned that we are looking at the leading indicators. We are not waiting for the customer success person to look at to lose the customer before we start working on them. So what are those leading indicators that we are talking about that give you some clarity that, hey, this customer success person will need this kind of help, or what can you talk to us more on the leading indicators?
Well, the traditional leading indicators are those conversion rates, leads to opportunities, opportunities to closed one, and then later, churn rate or NRR. I mean, how much money revenue are we able to generate across our book of business? They're all relating one to another, and it starts again from the ICP. So if we have a very clear ICP, ideal customer profile, then whatever happens later becomes more laser focused, or is improving. So the most obvious traditional KPIs from a sales point of view are the conversion rates. How many opportunities have you dealt with? How many of those have converted to closed one? These are the basics, and I can share some of my experience, some of my work, what I've done in WalkMe and other in previous roles. I wasn't satisfied with just those indicators. I mean, I was looking at those closed one indicators. For example, I was responsible for 200 salespeople, reps across different global offices, and you can't actually compare one with another. Obviously, there are some differences between segments and locations, geographical locations. In some countries, sales reps were focused on specific industries. In some other countries, sales reps were able to sell everything, like one to many. You could sell, a specific product to any kind of industry. So if you really want to be very specific with your enablement approach in order to design surgical help, you need to break these traditional KPIs into a higher resolution idea of what works, what doesn't work. So when you have those closed one ratios, and you have a one-to-many go-to market, meaning a salesperson can sell your product, for example, WhatFix, WalkMe, or digital adoption. This is a product that can help any industry, any market, any size of a company. So it would be very fair to break that closed one indicator into markets in order to understand where the rep is doing best. Okay, what are the sweet spots of the rep? Is he capable of selling the product to any market? If so, we need to find what works and replicate that across the board. So any other salespeople can replicate that. But in most cases, some salespeople are very comfortable with a specific market because of their previous experience. If they're coming from, the pharma industry, they'll do better selling whatever it is to the pharma industry. Keep the momentum. If they're coming from HR space, they'll do very good selling your product now into a familiar zone space, meaning HR, and so on. So to summarize, look at the traditional KPIs and try to redesign them to have a higher resolution idea of what works, what doesn't work. Break those into segments or markets or even teams, because sometimes it's not an individual problem. Sometimes you have a manager's problem. If the manager doesn't manage well the team, so you'll see like a problem that is resonating across the entire team. So the only way to find out what works, what doesn't work, is to come up with a higher resolution idea of KPIs. So that's just one idea, looking at the traditional closed one ratio.
Yeah, no, actually, I think that's a very different perspective, and I'm going to steal this term surgical help, because I love the idea that how do you analyze first, okay, which sales rep is struggling in which competency. The second question I have on this particular thing is, again, enablement people, we run a lot of initiatives, and a lot of time we don't know what is the impact of those initiatives. We often look at the adoption that, hey, we released a new competency on discovery, are people using it? But since you are very much focused on the data-driven enablement approach, I am sure impact of those enablement initiative is something that you keep it as a North Star. So can you talk to us more on that? Like when you run those initiatives, what are the things that you keep in mind? What are the kind of KPIs or the outcome metrics that you look at?
Yeah, of course. So let's put aside those surgical help. Let's look at the way things usually happen when you don't have surgical help or you don't have in-app guidance. So from an enablement point of view, you put together a self-learning program, either on Confluence or whatever system you're using. You are hosting long hours of self-learning. So if I'm a sales manager and I'm currently facing a problem. I'm facing a question that I'm not familiar with, like competition. The prospect mentions the name of a competitor which I'm not familiar with. So I can improvise on the call. I can do my magic. It might help me. And then, you know, when the call ends, I'll navigate outside of my sales environment and spend some time outside, try to spend some time on self-learning and, you know, sacrifice selling time with a lot of self-learning. Of course, it doesn't contribute to my success. It puts everything in risk. And there's no way to actually correlate or cross-reference the time I spent on trying to catch up on the competitive landscape or reading some battle cards, etc. Because we know that only 70% of the knowledge that you acquire by reading, you know, remains after 1 or 2 days. So it's not really helping us to provide self-learning for the sales managers, especially when they are, you know, they feel like puzzled, confused on the call with the prospect. So the other way around, in my opinion, that works very well, is to provide them the help they need on the call when they are, you know, facing a prospect or, you know, a challenging question. For example, you know, today technology has evolved to the point where you have like co-pilot applications which bring up the whatever you need to pitch, whatever you need to mention on the call. If the prospect mentions a competitive name, a competitor's name, those co-pilot applications will basically tell you what you need to know in order to kill competition or to tackle any objections that might come up during the conversation. So from a enablement point of view, our job is basically to come up with those surgical help by providing the help salespeople need inside the application they're using. Could be like a demo app or could be even Salesforce. So you can provide information, nuggets, bite-sized information inside Salesforce. One of the most, I think, successful examples I can share is, everyone is using Salesforce. I mean, this is the most common CRM people are using today. The common implementation is where basically sales reps, you know, maintain their housekeeping stuff on Salesforce. When they complete a call, they go back to Salesforce and they type the call notes, whatever they were able to extract from the call with the conversation, they put it back on Salesforce so others can catch up, can actually leverage that information. And most of the salespeople are, you know, they are failing to do this because they want to, you know, jump on the next call. They just, you know, either lazy or they don't want to do that. They don't want to sacrifice selling time with, you know, housekeeping. So today, you know, technology offers enablement and sales reps to auto-populate those conversation insights automatically on Salesforce. So that saves a great deal of time from preparing for the next call or basically wrapping up whatever happened before. Another example is, depending on the stage of the sales cycle, you can provide salespeople the help they need inside Salesforce. So they don't have to spend time outside of the application on a self-learning portal, whatever it is. Okay, and you provide them a surgical help. If they are on negotiation stage, you provide them the surgical help that helps them to tackle negotiation issues, etc.
Got it. And this is something, Avner, I speak to, thanks for talking about this, because two problems that they face is one, that 70-80% of the information is forgotten in the next 1 hour. So knowledge retention becomes a challenge, because if reps are forgetting the information, the ROI of your efforts will anyway go down. Second is, okay, we don't want to dump the entire information on salespeople. They have a lot of other things to do. So how can we provide them a bite-sized knowledge in the moments of the need? That is what we are talking about, because that way they will have better conversation, or they will have better learning curve than going through the entire learning programs. So yeah, I think this is what, again, I speak to a lot of customers, and this is something where the enablement is going towards. It is not about doing 10 courses or 20 courses. It is all about meeting the sales reps where, you know, when they are about to sell a particular product or service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And one question I have is, again, because I think ROI of the sales enablement has become, a very pressing topic in today's time. So can you talk to us more on how does the attribution of efforts, how do you tie the attribution of the sales enablement efforts to the sales success, and what are the metrics that you look at to measure those outcomes? I know you've already spoken about it to some level, but I'd love to dig deeper into this one.
So I totally agree. I think that, you know, to begin with, the key changes that need to happen, you know, from a mindset point of view, is you can't wait. Nobody can wait. Nobody can tolerate, you know, wasting time on end of quarter, end of month reports. We really need to know. We need to be on top of everything. We need to know what is happening today within the sales cycle, before and after. So one of the recommendations I would share with everyone here is to come up with reports or come up with indicators from within the sales cycle, auto notifications, alerts. Automate as many processes as possible. Don't rely on salespeople's willingness or motivation to do their housekeeping. automate as many processes as you can in order to fully orchestrate the entire process, lead to cash to renewal. I can share a few examples. One of the top priority projects I'm working on as we speak is automating the discovery process. Depends on the technology that you're using. We are mainly relying on Salesforce because from capacity or workload point of view, we don't want to bring too many applications into the sales stack. Every application comes with the overhead of managing, etc. So we rely mainly on Salesforce, and in order to manage the entire sales cycle, we automate as many processes as possible. So originally, what most people do is, they come up with specific qualification criteria such as BANT, ANUM, MEDPIC. Exactly. So you enable everyone to ask the right question at the right time with the right prospect, and only move on to the next step unless if you are able to accomplish a minimum level of information, etc. So this could be like free text stage or field in Salesforce or whatever system you're using, or you can automate the process and you can actually apply some conditions. So reps will not be able to close an opportunity unless they reach a minimum level of score. And that helps me to orchestrate the process and make sure that we don't insert noise into our pipeline. And we make sure that salespeople are fully executing on their KPIs, meaning asking those questions. Some of them are mandatory, some of them are not mandatory. But from a sales leadership point of view, I know that close to one opportunities are have been validated, have been confirmed, and they carry the minimum level of information I need in order to allow other teams to execute on their goals. So that's one way. Automate as many processes as you can in order to save time and friction on manual work, pinging everyone, hey, do your housekeeping, make sure that you update the close date, etc. Automate them, use the validation rules, use technologies such as WhatFix, WalkMe, etc., in-app guidance, in order to be on top of everything. You don't want to mess, to waste time on processes and friction and emails and notifications. Just automate everything and spend time on identifying, what works, what doesn't work, and basically provide the surgical help based on that information.
Yeah. And typically when we release some of these programs or these methodologies, the adoption of those methodologies become a challenge. And again, it starts with that maybe we ran a training and then people forget the information. And you spoke about automating the discovery questions in the Salesforce so that they're able to enter the right questions. So the question that I have is that, do you provide on the call guidance on that, hey, these are the discovery questions that you have to ask in order to qualify the opportunity? Or does the process start once they are done with the call and they have to enter those fields in the CRM in order to move their stage to the next level?
That's a beautiful question. There is no one-size-fits-all answer because it all depends on budget and how many people do you have under your team that can actually manage your tech stack. So the bottom is, you tell me, you can share with me your budget or your tech stack, and I can tell you, what works best. Let's put aside, budget, and let's put aside, human capacity, how many people you have on your team. So today there are so many applications to choose from. Like 2 years ago, there was none, like basically none. 2-3 years ago, nothing. And today I can count like at least 15 different applications that can serve as a co-pilot on the call, on the fly, and help salespeople to make sure that they're asking the right question proactively based on AI. So, for example, if the two of us were simulating a discovery call, and you as a prospect, you would bring up, a competitor's name that I'm not aware of. That co-pilot menu on my right side of the screen would actually tell me what to ask you based on the information that was, predefined in the backend. So going back to your question, you can provide the surgical help on the fly, on the go, on a side menu during the call with the prospect. If you deploy those applications, I can name just a few: NovaSeek, Win AI, etc. There's so many. Stack, etc. So there's so many applications that today provide those co-pilot capabilities, holding the rep's hand and making sure that they stay on track, depending on whatever you previously defined in the backend. If you can't afford that, if you don't have those capabilities, so you can have this option, this function, this ability to hold the rep's hand inside Salesforce. So you can come up with those discovery questions. You can design a specific area which those discovery questions show on a specific area in Salesforce, and depending on the sales capabilities to manage 2 monitors, whatever, they can use Salesforce on a side monitor and manage the entire conversation with whatever information they see on the second screen.
Got it. Avner, one question I have on this one, since you spoke about sales managers, a lot of the enablement programs, they need to lean on the sales managers to drive the adoption. or to push the salespeople to adopt this. And this is one problem that I know a lot of enablement people speak about, that hey, we don't get a lot of support from the frontline sales managers. They think it's a loss of the productivity. So before selling it to the end user, they first have to sell to the sales managers. So can you talk to us more on that? Like, how can they build a use case, or what are the metrics or outcomes they can promise to their sales manager so that they can push those initiatives to their salespeople?
This is a common challenge I faced so many times. It's not really a challenge; it's like a status quo. This is what we're dealing with, and it's a good thing for us, enablement, because this justifies our role and our work. So basically, the common scenario is that tier one managers, directors, team leaders, they focus on the later stages of the sales cycle. By the time the opportunity gets to the commercial justification, negotiation, pricing, etc., this is where the tier one manager prefers to step in and provide his skills and knowledge and experience. They want to basically close the deal. And in order to do that successfully, they manage those forecasting meeting every Mondays, whatever, in order to find out where are they needed most. And again, tier one managers focus on the later stage of the sales cycle. They don't want to mess around with the early stages, discovery, intro calls. This is like garbage time for them, which I don't agree, by the way. I disagree. On the contrary, I think that tier one managers should focus their efforts on those early stage of the opportunities, early stages of the opportunity. Now, they can't do that. They don't have the time to do that. They don't have the mindset sometimes to do that, whatever the reason is. So this is where we shine, enablement. So we need to leverage whatever applications, technology we have, conversation, intelligence calls such as Chorus, Gong, even Clary today. They partnered with Wingman, so they provide the same kind of capability. So we need to leverage those applications in order to automate, identifying risks, identifying what doesn't work, and then provide those insights on a silver platter to the tier one managers and tell them, hey, Mr. Tier One Manager, I know that you have a forecasting meeting next Monday, so I want to help you to prepare, to better prepare for those forecasting meeting. I don't want you to waste time with your, team members, your salespeople, asking them what works, what doesn't work, why, did we end up, on this opportunity such a long time? Why did you park so much time on this opportunity? It's been open for 3 months, whatever, it doesn't work. I don't want you to waste time on those forecasting meetings. I'll basically hand over those insights and tell you exactly why those opportunities got stuck. So you don't have to go back and ask your, reps what doesn't work. You know what doesn't work. So you can focus on improving or moving forward based on the insights that I will provide you. So we enablement, we need to come in, as I said before, we need to be more proactive. We need to leverage technology and data in order to understand what works, what doesn't work across the entire sales cycle, and mainly early stages, because these are kind of like blind spots for tier one managers. So we need to uncover those stones during the early stages of the sales cycle, extract insights, derive conclusions, provide recommendations, and hand them over to the tier one manager so they can do whatever they like to do, meaning late stages of the sales cycle, but can do it better.
Avner, this is a perfect example of how enablement can elevate their sales role, because forecasting is giving wrong forecast is a nightmare for every manager. And a lot of time they don't get clarity on why the deals are stuck or what worked on the deals that we closed won. And they often get wrong information from the sales reps, and it takes a lot of time to get this information. So I think that is where enablement can shine, where they have a lot of data, right? You can pull the data from the CI tools and the Salesforce. Hey, this was something that the rep was able to capture and provide those insights to the T1 manager, and also tell them that, hey, if you work on this competency for the salesperson, we will be able to improve this one. And the deals that we lost because of this XYZ reason, it will not happen again. So I think that was a beautiful example that you gave.
I totally agree. If I may add, I want to, share with everyone, what worked for me very well in order to become, a strategic sales enablement. As I said before, think out of the box. Don't just think sales. Think out of the box. Think marketing. Think marketing operations. Think sales operations, customer success, and account managers. Put yourself in each one of those roles and try to think, what would you do if you were basically leading those roles? And what would you need from sales enablement? Okay, what kind of help would you need? And this is where you actually design your next step with each one of those roles. This basically helps you to walk in their shoes and talk their language. And this will improve your go-to-market or whatever you need to create, develop, design for those different roles.
You're right. Yeah, I think that's a great perspective, Avner. I came with a lot of questions, but I think I'm glad that we could narrow down on one question and then get more intel on that. So I think that brings us to the end of the show. It was such an insightful session. And I'm sure a lot of other enablement people will reach out to you after this session, because they must be getting a lot of another new perspective. So thank you so much again, Avner, for doing this. And again, it was lovely from our end.
Thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed this conversation. Looking forward to some more conversations in the future.
Absolutely.
And good luck, everyone.
Yes, thank you.